Hello, I hope everyone is doing fine. Today in this video, I will be solving a previous FE question from the UCF past FE website. Before I begin this video, I kind of want to say that I am assuming that you already have a solid understanding of how pointers work, how functions work, how loops works, and then you understand pass by value and pass by reference. Very clearly was the difference between those. You also kind of understand malloc, calloc, and when you need to use realloc, right? For example, if the size of the array is if the array is full, you can use realloc and double the size. So I'm kind of hoping that you already know those topics in depth, and if you don't, I would highly recommend that you do, because I'm just gonna do a very beginner example question, and then I'm gonna dive straight into the dynamic memory question from the previous FEs. So with that being said, let's just begin. Let's just do a very beginner friendly example so we can ease our way into like the harder question in this video. So what we'll do is we'll create a function that essentially dynamically allocates memory for an integer array, and then fill that array with some useful value, right? So let's just get straight into it. Let's just say in this function, the function prototype is int pointer create array. The function parameter is n, which essentially represents how much memory we would like to allocate, correct? So for this, we would need a pointer, right? A pointer to essentially hold the starting address of the array, since arrays are like continuous in memory. So if I know the starting address, I kind of know like where to go, right? Because they're all in like contiguous block of memory. So what I would do is I would create an integer pointer. Let's just call it NA for new array. I would call my malloc function, and then I would say in this malloc function takes in how much memory I want, right? So I want size of int, which is 4 times n. So for this example, let's assume that n is 5, right? Let's just assume n is 5. So what this line would do is it would create, what we're doing is we have a new array pointer that essentially holds the starting address 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So this new array pointer essentially holds the starting address of this newly dynamically created array, and through that, I kind of just already know like the rest of the addresses, right? Because it's in contiguous space of memory. So yeah. So if this is like x0, this is x4, x8, and then x12, and then x16, and so on, right? And now I need to fill in this memory with some useful information. So for this example, I'm just going to use a for loop and then fill the values with that. So it's super easy. I would just run a for int I equal to 0, I is smaller than n, which is 5 in this example, I plus plus, na at the ith position catches the value of I, and then we just return na. Very easy, straightforward. We'd like to draw a small diagram. So let's say our I begins from 0, it will go 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that would just essentially create this new dynamic memory and fill in the information. For this example, obviously I just kind of filled in with this just I value, but you can use other examples. Alright, so hopefully you were able to understand this very beginner-friendly dynamic memory allocation problem. And if you did any problem, let me know in the comments. I would be more than happy to help. So now let's just begin into the bigger, harder problem of the previous FE. I would highly recommend that I'm not going to read this question because I've already read it, and I have broken this down into small pieces that I would get into. But I would highly recommend that you pause this video about right now and then read the question and then come back to this video. All right. Hopefully you were able to understand the question, and if you did not, I've obviously broken down this question into easier bite-sized examples so that we can understand what's going on, right? So first things first, I would explain this using a diagram. What we need to do is we need to create memory for the outside box, right? For the outside struct. So for example, let's say we have this box, right? That has sorry, that box is not. All right, let's just create a better box. All right, somewhat better, right? Let's just call this struct ML. It has two components in it, an M array, which is a double pointer, and then we have number of monsters, right? So what we need to do is we need to dynamically allocate memory for this outside box, then dynamically allocate a memory for, since it's a double pointer, it can hold either a pointer or an array of pointers, right? So in this case, what we need to do is we need to create a memory, sorry, what we need to do is we need to create a memory of array pointers, and then this pointer would in turn point to a monster, right? And then with the help of the initialize helper function, we need to fill in this value. And then last but not least, which is the very easy part, we just need to fill this information with n, since that's the function parameter passed to the function. So now let's just begin and just solve this question. I would be using abbreviations so that it's easier for me to solve the question, but in the FE that you obviously need to use what the function names and the function parameters that have been given to you. So for monster list, I'm just going to use m underscore l, and then star, which is just a pointer. I'll just use get monster, and the function parameter is simple integer n. So first things first, I need to allocate memory for this outside box. How can I do it? I can use a pointer, right? A pointer of this type. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do m underscore l pointer, let's just call it new, equals to malloc, or sorry, catches the value of malloc, size of monster, right? Super easy. Or sorry, monster list, which is just ml, size of m underscore l. Now we have essentially what we have done with this line. We have created this box. Now we need to create memory for this pointer array, and then we need to fill in this information, and then finally we need to fill in this with just n. So let's just do this part since it's very easy. We can just we can just dereference this and fill this with n. So I can just do new arrow n m equals to n. So I've done that. That's really self-explanatory. You don't need to, you know, delve into that much. Now what I need to do is I need to run a for loop, and then no, sorry. The second part is I need to allocate memory for this array, right? For this pointer array. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do new arrow m array, new arrow m array equals to malloc size of monster. I will do size of monster times n, right? So now that what I've done is I've essentially I've done this part, right? I have allocated a memory for the array monster pointers. Now I will loop through that array and then fill in that and I would okay. So I will loop through this array, this pointer array, create memory for this part, for this boxes, and then fill in those values with useful information with the help of the initializer function given provided to us, right? So that's all super easy. I will just do for int I equal to 0, I is smaller than n, I plus plus, right? I would just do new arrow uh, m array at the ith position equals to malloc size of monster. Size of monster. Now I need to fill in this information, right? So I would just call my helper function. Let's call it init new arrow array. So now what I've done is I've done this part. I've essentially first, with the help of this line, I created a block of memory for this. Now I ran a for loop. I ran a for loop in this, and then I dereferenced each box, created a memory for this box, and then with the help of the initializer function, I filled in this value. So now with that done, I can just return the pointer and we are done. Return new. And that's it. That's the solution. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comment section. I would be more than happy to help. Thank you.